Humanity is standing at a threshold, one that very few can sense, yet everyone is moving toward. Something massive is unfolding in the invisible layers of consciousness, and whether you realize it or not, you are participating in it right now. For centuries, human evolution has been perceived as linear, a gradual climb from ignorance to knowledge, from darkness to light. But what's happening now is not linear. It's quantum. It's exponential. It's a total inversion of how consciousness once evolved. The spiritual endgame doesn't mean destruction. It means culmination. The point where the evolution of human awareness reaches such a saturation point that it can no longer expand through the same old mechanisms of time, struggle, and separation. We've been running a simulation of limitation for millennia. We've learned through contrast, pain, polarity, and forgetting. But the next phase of evolution is no longer about learning through density. It's about remembering through awareness. The truth is, consciousness has been cycling itself through endless incarnations, fractal realities, and simulated polarities to gather data on one question. What happens when infinite intelligence forgets itself? Now we've reached the edge of that experiment. The memory of separation has reached its final layer, and what's emerging isn't new information. It's the reactivation of what was always known. This is why the world feels more chaotic, faster, louder, and more fragmented than ever before. The old energetic architecture of the human collective is disintegrating. The false systems built on fear, control, and distortion can't sustain coherence anymore. And as they collapse, the nervous systems of billions are registering that collapse internally, as anxiety, confusion, depression, or restlessness. But those sensations aren't the sign of failure. They're the birth contractions of a new operating system. We are witnessing the quantum endgame of human consciousness. It's not a race. It's not a test. It's the unfolding of what has already been written in the vibrational code of creation, that everything which forgot itself would eventually awaken. But awakening at this stage isn't about personal enlightenment or spiritual superiority. That phase is over. The endgame is collective, the merging of billions of fragmented awarenesses back into a coherent, unified field. You are not separate from that process. You are one cell in a vast cosmic organism that is beginning to remember its wholeness. And the remembering begins with you, not by acquiring new knowledge, but by releasing everything that no longer matches your true frequency. Because the endgame doesn't reward accumulation. It rewards coherence, the collapse of illusion. When you look at the world today, what you're seeing isn't destruction. It's the exposure of illusion. All systems that were sustained by artificial power are being stripped of their energetic scaffolding. Governments, religions, corporations, even certain spiritual frameworks, they were never designed to liberate consciousness. They were designed to contain it. But the field can no longer be contained. Frequency is rising. Awareness is expanding. And what was once invisible is now undeniable. This is why people are experiencing intense emotional and physical purges. It's why relationships, careers, and belief systems are dissolving. It's not punishment, it's purification. The human energy field is clearing millennia of accumulated distortion. And what remains after that clearing is truth, raw, radiant, unfiltered awareness. This purification is uncomfortable because it demands surrender of identity. You can't carry the old energetic baggage into a coherent timeline. The version of you built on fear, validation, and survival cannot cross this threshold. The spiritual endgame is not about upgrading your personality. It's about dismantling it. You are not becoming more of who you were. You are dissolving everything you are not. From awakening to embodiment. The awakening phase was about seeing beyond illusion, realizing you are not the body, not the ego, not the limited self. But the embodiment phase, the phase we've entered now, is where that realization must be lived. Awareness is no longer enough. Alignment is required. You can't claim to understand oneness while living from separation. You can't speak of light while vibrating in fear. You can't declare consciousness while feeding the illusions of hierarchy and control. The field no longer supports incoherence. This is why so many people feel lost right now, because the energetic scaffolding that once held their identity is disintegrating. It's why external guidance feels hollow, and inner truth feels louder than ever. The old paradigm was teacher, student. The new paradigm is field-to-field resonance. No one can tell you how to navigate this shift, because the path is no longer linear. You're not walking toward truth, you're collapsing into it. The great convergence. Everything in consciousness is now converging into a singular point, a state of collective coherence. This is what ancient civilizations called the return of the golden frequency, or the merging of heaven and earth. In physics, coherence means when multiple frequencies synchronize into a unified pattern of vibration. Spiritually, coherence means when countless individual consciousnesses align with the vibration of truth simultaneously. That's what's happening right now. The illusion of separation is breaking down because the collective field is beginning to synchronize. Every act of self-awareness you embody, every emotion you integrate, every distortion you release, it all contributes to the stabilization of that unified field. You are not just healing yourself, you are calibrating the grid of human consciousness. This is the spiritual endgame, not some apocalyptic event, not ascension as escape, but integration, the complete merging of physical and non-physical awareness into one coherent system of existence. When enough of the collective holds that frequency, reality itself will shift, not metaphorically, but physically. Matter will become more responsive. Time will feel fluid. Intuition will replace logic as the primary mode of navigation. It's not fantasy. It's evolution. The silence between timelines. Right now, you might feel suspended between two realities. The old one, heavy, chaotic, predictable. And the emerging one, light, fluid, unexplainably aligned. This in-between space is the void, the quantum still point between creation and recreation. It's here where the endgame truly unfolds. Not through action, but through allowance. The more you resist change, the more the old frequency holds you. The more you surrender, the faster the field reorganizes around your true vibration. This is the paradox of the endgame. You don't ascend by effort, you ascend by release. You don't evolve by chasing light. You evolve by becoming transparent enough for it to flow through you. Because the next stage of human evolution isn't spiritual escapism, it's embodied luminosity. The realization that spirit and matter were never separate. They were always one frequency, temporarily split by perception. That split is healing now. The veil is thinning. And what's emerging is not a new age, but a new state of being. You are witnessing and participating in the most profound moment in the history of human consciousness. The spiritual endgame has begun. If you've been feeling like something inside you is being dismantled, not gradually, but forcefully, it's because the energetic structure that once defined your identity is losing coherence. The collective field is undergoing an electromagnetic reorganization. The old vibrational grid that sustained human consciousness in separation is dissolving. This isn't a metaphor. It's a quantum event happening within the morphogenetic field of the planet. Every pattern built on distortion, control, fear, manipulation, and hierarchy is being revealed for what it is, a frequency that can no longer sustain form. You can feel this shift in your nervous system. You can feel it in your relationships, in your dreams, in the increasing speed of time. It's as though reality itself is accelerating towards some invisible convergence point. And that's exactly what's happening. We are entering the 0 point of human evolution, the space where the false identity collapses and pure awareness takes command. The breakdown of false constructs. Everything external that once gave humanity a sense of stability is being stripped away. Governments are fracturing under the weight of their own deception. Institutions that once dictated meaning are being exposed as hollow containers of fear-based programming. And individuals everywhere are waking up to the realization that nothing out there has the authority to define truth. The breakdown is the blessing. Because what collapses now is not real. It was only ever a projection of collective hypnosis. The mind will fight to preserve what is familiar. It will call this collapse chaos, crisis, or end times. But to consciousness, this is the liberation protocol, the necessary purification before coherence can emerge. In quantum mechanics, before a system reorganizes into higher order, it must first experience decoherence, the disintegration of its previous pattern. That's what's happening to the human species. We are decohering from separation so that we can reorganize as unity. This is not a future event. It's happening right now. Every uncomfortable emotion, every strange physical sensation, every energetic purge, it's all the field adjusting to match a higher vibration. The spiritual endgame is not a smooth process, but a necessary dismantling. You're not being broken, you're being recalibrated. The shift from individual awakening to planetary resonance. For decades, awakening was personal. People meditated, sought meaning, and healed trauma to reach individual enlightenment. That phase was essential, but it was never the destination. Now awakening is planetary. Every individual field is sinking into a global resonance pattern. You can visualize it like billions of frequency nodes lighting up, harmonizing into a single coherent waveform. Earth's consciousness grid returning to its original blueprint. That's why you might find yourself suddenly more sensitive to energies, more empathic, more attuned to vibration. You're not too sensitive. You're becoming a receiver for the collective frequency upgrade. The waves of energy that many are feeling, pulses of electricity, moments of timeless awareness, or surges of emotion that come without reason, are the body's response to the global coherence field forming around us. Your DNA is being instructed by this resonance to awaken dormant codes, not metaphorical codes, but bioelectrical instructions that were inactive during the age of separation. As these codes activate, perception expands. Intuition strengthens. Time begins to collapse into presence. This is not spirituality as a concept. This is spirituality as physics. The illusion of choice. The ego believes it has a choice about whether to join this transformation. But the truth is, this isn't optional. The wave of evolution is not asking permission. It's already moving through every cell of existence. You can resist it, but resistance only amplifies discomfort. You can surrender, and the process becomes alchemical. This is the moment where humanity's illusion of separation meets the truth of oneness, and there's no way to intellectually navigate that. You can't outthink the quantum field. You can only align with it. And alignment doesn't mean perfection. It means authentic resonance. If you feel grief, allow it. If you feel anger, transmute it. If you feel disoriented, breathe through it. Every emotion surfacing now is an outdated frequency leaving your system. The endgame requires full transparency. You cannot carry denial into coherence. the emergence of quantum presence. As the external grid collapses, a new frequency of awareness emerges, quantum presence. Quantum presence is not mindfulness. It's not about quieting your mind. It's about embodying the awareness that the mind itself arises from within consciousness. In this state, you begin to experience reality as fluid, non-linear, and responsive. Synchronicities accelerate. Manifestations collapse time. Reality starts mirroring thought instantly because delay is a function of incoherence, and coherence is increasing. This is the stage where thought, emotion, and energy merge into one continuum of creative intelligence. But to access it, the observer must be pure, unburdened by stories, free from past identity loops. That's why the field is forcing purification. It's not cruelty. It's preparation. The universe is preparing you to operate as a fully conscious participant in the quantum ecosystem. And that means your frequency becomes your reality. A moment to breathe, a reminder of why you're here. If you're still here watching this, that means you're not just casually interested in consciousness, you're called to it. You wouldn't be drawn to this message if your field wasn't ready to resonate at this level. So take a moment right now to breathe, not shallowly, but deeply into your core. Feel your awareness expand with each inhale. You're not absorbing these words. You're remembering what's already encoded within you. This is a powerful moment to remind you. If this message resonates, if it's helping you understand the transformation you're feeling, please subscribe, like, and share this video. Not for algorithms, but for coherence. Every like, every share, every subscriber creates a harmonic pulse in the collective field that strengthens the resonance of awakening across the planet. You're not just engaging with content, you're amplifying frequency. You're contributing to the global shift, the return of the unified field. As the endgame unfolds, we will begin to remember that consciousness is not contained in the brain or body. It is the unified field that creates the appearance of both. Every being, every atom, every photon is an expression of that one field. And as coherence increases, the illusion of separation between observer and observed collapses. This is where the mystical and the scientific finally meet. What the ancients called divine union, quantum physics now calls entanglement. Different languages, same truth. You are not awakening into a higher reality. You are awakening as the field that creates all realities. This realization is the ultimate initiation. It ends the karmic loop, dissolves the illusion of polarity, and restores direct communion with source intelligence. When this coherence becomes collective, the next phase of existence begins. Not as humans seeking divinity, but as divinity remembering itself through human form. As humanity moves deeper into this evolutionary threshold, the game is no longer about seeking external enlightenment or chasing spiritual highs. The endgame is integration, the collapse of separation within the self, the merging of the finite with the infinite, the human with the divine. This is not a poetic concept. It is the next phase of consciousness evolution on this planet, the embodiment of unity through matter. You may have noticed how rapidly everything seems to be accelerating. Time feels compressed, emotions are amplified, and unprocessed layers of the psyche are surfacing faster than ever before. This is not chaos, it's coherence demanding formation. The frequencies hitting this planet, physically through electromagnetic shifts and energetically through collective awareness, are recalibrating our internal architecture. They are not arriving to save us. They are exposing what is incompatible with the next state of being. The human nervous system is evolving to sustain more energy, more presence, and more light. But light without integration fractures the psyche. That's why so many are experiencing exhaustion, confusion, or existential emptiness. The nervous system cannot hold infinite current while still rooted in finite fear. The illusion of control must collapse for coherence to stabilize. This is what the endgame looks like: the dismantling of every internal structure built on unconscious separation. The ego's resistance isn't the enemy. It's simply the identity structure dissolving under the pressure of truth. Every trigger, every emotional spiral, every breakdown is consciousness reshaping itself into alignment with its original blueprint. The collective field mirrors this same process. Systems of economy, religion, government, and media, all built upon fragmented consciousness, are now destabilizing. Not because humanity is failing, but because the frequency they operate on can no longer sustain the coherence of the new field. You cannot anchor a multidimensional consciousness inside an outdated matrix. The very code of separation is becoming obsolete. But here's the paradox. As the old collapses, the human mind instinctively clings to it for safety. That's why people polarize, tribalize, and externalize blame. It's a survival response, the mind's attempt to maintain identity through friction. The spiritual endgame dissolves that friction. It invites you to exist beyond the illusion of us versus them, light versus dark, ascent versus fall. All polarities converge at the point of awareness itself, the observer who is beyond form, yet animates all forms. To embody this is not an abstract process. It's deeply physical. The spiritual and biological systems are no longer separate tracks. They're merging into one evolutionary pathway. Coherence between thought, emotion, and frequency creates a resonance field strong enough to rewrite your cellular memory. This is how reality literally begins responding differently to your presence. You've likely experienced it. Moments when manifestation becomes instant, when synchronicities align effortlessly, when people or opportunities appear precisely at the right frequency. That's coherence in motion. It's not magic. It's the physics of resonance aligning your timeline to the vibrational truth of your state of being. But to sustain that state, the unconscious must be purified. Every distortion, fear, guilt, shame, resentment, carries a frequency signature that dissonates with coherence. You cannot think your way out of dissonance. You must feel your way through it. Emotional transmutation is the alchemical process of turning fragmentation into light, not by suppressing darkness, but by including it within awareness. At this stage, spiritual bypassing becomes the final trap. Many seekers attempt to ascend by rejecting their human nature, by over-identifying with the observer while disowning the experiencer. But true coherence arises when both merge, when awareness fully inhabits the density it once tried to escape. The purpose of awakening was never to leave the human experience. It was to sanctify it. The endgame is not the disappearance of form. It's the divinization of form. Matter awakening to its own luminosity. Humanity realizing that transcendence is not found in leaving the world, but in seeing through it, living from the quantum state while walking in the physical plane. You are the bridge. The body is the vessel. The heart is the interface. The entire evolutionary process of consciousness has been leading to this integration, where awareness is embodied, where creation becomes conscious of itself through you. And this is why the old you cannot survive the new field. The outdated self-concept, the identity born of lack and separation, is incompatible with the coherence of this frequency. The impulse of evolution is asking you to release every version of yourself that was built in reaction to fear. This isn't punishment, it's liberation. You're not losing identity, you're transcending its limitation. From this perspective, The collapse of your external world, relationships, careers, beliefs, isn't random. It's an initiation. Every structure that doesn't resonate with your authentic frequency will dissolve. The more you resist, the more friction you feel. But when you surrender into the coherence, everything reorganizes itself to support your alignment. This is the physics of consciousness. Frequency dictates form. Vibration determines visibility. When you shift your internal resonance, the external world must rearrange itself accordingly. That is the law of coherence. Humanity is collectively stepping into that awareness. The spiritual endgame isn't a singular event. It's a gradual recognition that consciousness no longer needs intermediaries, systems, or saviors. The divine is not descending from the heavens, it's emerging through you. That's why this era feels so intense. We are witnessing the death of unconscious creation and the birth of quantum participation. Humanity is learning to co-create reality deliberately, not through reaction but through resonance. And this is the wave that will define the next stage of civilization. But the question remains, how do you ride it? By cultivating coherence between thought, emotion, and embodiment. By no longer fragmenting yourself between the observer and the participant. By allowing the nervous system to adapt to higher frequencies through rest, presence, and still awareness. And by releasing the illusion that awakening is something to achieve. Awakening is already happening. You're simply learning to stop resisting it. The true mastery is stabilization. The ability to hold expanded consciousness through the intensity of physical experience. That's the endgame, spiritual maturity. Not escape, not enlightenment as an achievement, but full coherence as a state of being. When you embody that, you no longer chase alignment, you are alignment. Reality becomes an echo of your internal frequency. And your life ceases to be a linear story of progress. It becomes a living expression of consciousness itself. This is what it means to reach the end of the game. Not as a conclusion, but as the point where awareness recognizes itself as both player and field. The game continues, but now you play consciously. Humanity has entered the phase where consciousness and matter merge intentionally. Every thought, every emotion, every act of attention contributes to the morphic field of our collective evolution. You are not an observer on the sidelines of creation. You are its active participant. And as we come to an end, remember, coherence isn't about perfection. It's about alignment. The frequency of truth is not achieved by becoming flawless, but by being fully authentic. The spiritual endgame has begun. The only question is whether you'll resist it or participate consciously in its unfolding.